It's funny because I am not just a little bit older, I'm 7 years older, so I did boss him around a lot when he was little. And it's funny because all the lectures, though, have reversed. I'm the one that gets all the lectures the last few years on this is how you're going to do things, and you're not going to do this, and you're not going to do this, and you're going to do it this way. And it's rather hilarious because big brothers don't usually take that very well, but we get through it. But I do want to thank you, Matt, and the Chamber. The Chamber is a catalyst for collaboration and community advocacy, making this a fabulous venue for this state of the city. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here and for hosting this event. I know that people will recognize elected officials and such, but I just want to say a few things about a few people in attendance. But I'll start with the fact that it's a great honor to have the Citizens of the Year. There's one of the two Citizens of the Year that's here. Bob and Candy White. Bob is back here. Give him a wave, Bob. I love the fact that we get to do the Citizen of the Year because, as with Bob and Candy White, they've been giving back to the community in the most wonderful and impactful ways. They each made a difference in the lives of students and teachers throughout their amazing careers in education, and their passion for serving our community has continued long past retirement, and they spend countless hours volunteering on boards and more, such as nonprofits including Kauffman Foundation, Lee Summit Social Services, Truman Heartland Foundation, and the Lee Summit Symphony Orchestra. So they're always present, always role modeling, and I love their character and values. So thank you for being here. As well, we have elected officials here, and it's always humbling to have an elected official from another jurisdiction come and to our state of the city. It just means a lot. So there are a few people here that have done a lot for us the last couple of years as we traversed the pandemic, including Teresa Galvin with the Jackson County Legislature. She has taken so many calls from me, from council members, from community partners. My brother Matt probably calls her every day, wanting to know, can we have Oktoberfest? Can we have Oktoberfest? Can we have Oktoberfest? You know, she's been there for us, so thank you, Teresa. Mayor Mcdonough is yes, thank you. Mayor Mcdonough is just a huge, tremendous ally, and he always brings to the table the big picture. So we as mayors do visit and gather, and he's kind of like Beto Lopez as far as the chemistry person that brings us together. So thank you for being here, Mayor Mcdonough. And Raina Park Shaw, City Council member for Kansas City, is here, and she's always advocating support, regionalism. She's a true role model, so thank you for being here. And then I'm really taken aback by the fantastic showing of school board members for the Lee Summit schools, but also Blue Springs schools. They are here in force, everyone. They are all in with us when it comes to collaborative relations with the city and community partners and education, and I'm very thankful that you all are here today. Thank you. There are a lot of staff members here for the City of Lee Summit, and I really can't go through them all. I'd love to, but I do want to recognize, just so you know, who they are, because they were a big part of helping us get through the last couple of years. And one's, of course, City Manager Steve Arbo and Assistant City Manager Mark Dunning. Please stand, please. I've been blessed to have a few people in my life that have a compass so strong and who have judgment. That's funny, I didn't think I would get a little misty about this, but judgment that I trust more than my own, and who I'm able to freely express myself to without judgment, and to be able to get the best support and guidance, to be able to make the most pragmatic decisions possible for the benefit of all. One is Hillary Baird, my wife. So yeah. And the other is Beto Lopez, who serves as the Mayor Pro Tem, and he's been there for us for 3.5 years, and he helps provide the chemistry that keeps our council working together and keeps us focused on the values and priorities that have helped us achieve so much. So Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. I didn't want to point out one council member over the others, but he just puts up a lot with me, just like my brother and my wife, and not as much as my wife, but so he deserves the kudos. However, the fact is, I've been blessed as mayor for the last few years with a great council. And present today, you heard them, but I think it's important that you know the districts and who they are. So I'm going to make you stand up. I know that you were already recognized, but I'm going to brag on them for a second. So look, Mayor Pro Tem is District 3, along with Councilmember Phyllis Edson. So Phyllis, make sure they know who you are. Thank you. I could brag on each of them so much. Council members Bob Johnson and Fred DeMoro of District 4. So these two right here. Yep. Council members Diane Forte and Hillary Shields of District 1. So if you're on the south side. And Council members Trish Carlisle and Andrew Felker of District 2. So that's the west side. So I just want to thank you for being here and all your service. And I am very proud to serve alongside you. And being proud is a reflection of many things, and I would like to point out a few. I'm proud of the way the council works together as a team, for the betterment of Lee Summit. I'm proud of the way of how council members are able to speak freely, sometimes in conflict, knowing that it's done in trust and understanding. After we debate and sometimes disagree, I'm proud of the grace that we give each other by moving on to the next important decision. And I'm proud of the civility and respect we show to others, such as citizens, organizations, and city staff that come before the council. I'm proud of the many accomplishments that we've achieved over the last few years, but most importantly, I'm proud of the character and the ethics that this council displays. And I believe the citizens of Lee Summit are proud of their city and the direction we are going. And this is not an easy accomplishment in today's political climate. I did some research, like I like to throw numbers out every once in a while, such as there was a Gallup poll this year that showed that, in July, that showed that 69% of Americans are extremely or very proud to be Americans. 69%. That's up from 63% last year. But that is far below the averages from 80 to 90% in the previous couple of decades. Yeah, like 90% of Americans were proud the years following 9/11/2001. The Gallup concluded, though, that the current level of pride may be the new norm due to the emerging generational differences in patriotism and perhaps a greater link than in the past between the party of the president, one's own partisanship, and how one feels about the country. There was a poll in 2014 by Gallup that said that with regard to state pride, in Montana, Alaska, Utah, and Texas, citizens showed the greatest amount of pride. Missouri was rather low in state pride compared to other states. And Gallup concluded that factors that residents use to determine whether their state is a great place to live isn't always obvious. But residents with the most pride in their state as a place to live generally boast of a greater standard of living, higher trust in state government, and less resentment towards the amount they pay in state taxes. Imagine that. There was a 2015 Gallup poll that was conducted about city pride, and Des Moines, Iowa, topped the proud list of residents, and Raleigh, North Carolina, Anchorage, Alaska, and Chattanooga also hit the top 10. Gallup's conclusion was that citizens' pride in their local community is related to a wide variety of factors, but one correlating factor was how safe and secure citizens felt. I certainly know the many sources of pride in our community and can confirm that public safety is priority number one for our citizens in every survey, every community conversation, and public forum. And based on previous FBI statistical reports on crime, Lee Summit is one of the safest communities to live. Of course, there's a variety of other factors that are sources of pride in our community. We are blessed with beautiful parks. Park board members are here, thank you, I saw that. Yep. Amazing lakes surround our city and an abundance of cultural and recreational activities. We have a most charming downtown in the nation, and we have retail and dining in every corner of this lovely suburban city. Few cities can stake claim to all we have proud of. These wonderful amenities are part of our brand, but an integral part of our brand is our culture. We are a highly engaged community that believes in collaboration among community partners and stakeholders, as well as with our regional partners. We look out for each other and our neighbors and expect our businesses and organizations to maintain the highest professional standards. And we're passionate about education and our children's future. Our wonderful culture was challenged over the last 18 months with the pandemic. When COVID shut us down in March of 2020, the following months were chaotic. The city management team had to figure out how to run the city with remote workers without reducing city services and operations. We were scrambling for PPE and supplies for our employees, and especially our first responders and police officers. Department heads were working 7 days a week and giving everything they had for our community. Our fire chief jostled teams with regard to our first responders, I lost my spot, jostled teams to keep our city safe with COVID protocols, sometimes taking out entire units of 4 to 7 firefighters. The Parks Department gave all of their PPE supplies to the police department, the limited supplies that they had to the police department to keep our officers safe. There are a lot of untold stories of selfless acts from not only our first responders, but our employees across the board. Amidst the chaos, though, came innovation. The city increased capacity for applying and renewing permits online. Virtual hearings, open houses, and online meetings became a part of our normal operations. Paper processes were converted to electronic processes. And in utilizing virtual technologies, we actually saw increased participation in our volunteer boards and commissions, increased feedback from citizens on projects, and more engagement with outside agencies. Although there was some increased efficiency, it did come at a cost. I can't tell you how many times we sat through meetings, Zoom meetings, and we saw the extreme effects of Zoom fatigue. The ramifications of not being in person impacted relationships, communications, collaboration, and consensus building. But given the circumstances, the City Council pushed through to do what was best for Lee Summit. And then there's also the countless stories of businesses and individuals in the community that donated PPE, supplies, and much more to our businesses, our community partners, hospitals, and even to the city. This is the culture that we have that makes us the great community that we are. Our city's resumed in-person meetings earlier this year, and our employees are nearly all on site. However, we did tweak some of our policies and ordinances to adopt more permanently the idea of hybrid meetings to allow for public participation as well as third-party contractors to present to council virtually. This has enabled participation given the fact that COVID-19 and variants are still not under control. I want to go back to May and June of 2020. This was a very difficult time for everyone, but especially for staff and the councils. We were trying to figure out how to budget for the next year. July 1st, we had to figure out a budget. No one could predict just how much our city revenues would be impacted by the shutdowns of our economy. The city manager, Steve Arbo, he cut all the expenditures, all travel, training, and much more. Predicting the revenues from building permits, applications, and of course sales tax it seemed next to impossible, given we just were only like 30 to 45 days into COVID. But staff, the Finance and Budget Committee, and City Council did our best to be conservative by planning for a decline in our revenues. Now, the city has not operated under deficit budgets in previous years, but given the state of emergency and our healthy reserve, we moved forward with an anticipated $5.5 million deficit budget. We were fortunate to have a healthy reserve for such a situation. COVID restrictions eased later in 2020, but then we entered a difficult winter with cases peaking and everybody going indoors. Everyone was extremely concerned regarding the survival of our local businesses. However, our amazing citizens and Chamber and EDC and all of our community partners, downtown Main Street, they all rallied and they shopped local and supported their hometown favorites. Because of this, we didn't suffer the loss in sales tax revenues that we anticipated. We exceeded our sales tax projections by $3.5 million. The culture of looking out for our own not only saved businesses, but helped keep our city services in full operation. One fortunate action that took place was that the city council, before COVID, put a use tax on the April ballot to stop the sales tax leakage to online sales. So 48 out of 50 states had already approved the collection of a use tax, but Missouri had not. So cities like Lee Summit were forced to pass the tax in a local election to be able to collect the tax. The election was delayed because of COVID till June, but our citizens showed up in the middle of a pandemic and supported approving the use tax in the middle of a pandemic. We were able to start collecting taxes, the use tax, from Amazon, Best Buy purchases online, and more in October of 2020. And in the following 9 months, we collected $1.5 million to end the fiscal year. So based on the first 3 months of this year, since the end of that fiscal year, so the last 3 months, or would be July, August, September, what was the 3 months? June, July, and August, right, Bob?
Time period of expenditure?
Yeah, the last 3 months. Based on what we're seeing from the last 3 months, we're going to bringing in over $2 million, it looks like, annually in the use tax. And you know that online shopping is going to continue to rise. Citizens engaging and showing up at the voting polls to support their city and their schools is a big part of our incredible culture. And I could not be prouder or more thankful to our citizens for their support and advocacy. It was also super impressive that builders, developers, and businesses continued moving forward, investing in Lee Summit in 2020 and 2021. And revenues from licenses, permits, they exceeded our projected budget by 42% and basically came in about $1 million, a little over $1 million over the previous year. When it was all said and done, we didn't have a $5.5 million deficit. We only ran a deficit of about $360,000. And this is truly remarkable given many of our neighboring cities were not so fortunate and given the level of uncertainty that COVID had brought upon us. At this time, COVID-19 is still impacting our economy and our city's revenues for fiscal year 20 and our revenues for 22. However, our projected revenues are over $80 million. Now this is up from $70 million 3 years ago. This growth in revenue is due to a strong sales tax. It's due to the collection of, we'll get a full year of the use tax revenues. And it's also due to the reallocation of debt our citizens approved just a few months ago, resulting in $2.3 million of funds to go into the general fund account to pay for city services, compensation, and more. Because of these additional revenues, for the first time in 14 years, the City Council was able to approve a major expansion in public safety by adding 6 firefighters, as well as a police training officer, and four additional employees in the police dispatching center.
The antenna is right here.
Oh, thanks. City Manager Steve Barbo. He's always keeping me in line. So with taxpayer support a few years ago, we've been able to replace 2 old fire stations. We were able to renovate the police headquarters. We equipped all the police officers and all the police vehicles with cameras. And then this year, because of our increased revenues, we were able to make the first expansion in many, many years with regard to public safety employees, expanding our employees to help keep up with the ever-increasing population and demand on our resources, because we are growing. We continue to grow so quickly. Now, the extremely difficult working conditions of COVID created for all the frontline workers, including police and fire, has put even more stress and pressure on that workforce. There's a national trend right now going on where we are all losing our guardians of the city and hometown heroes to the private sector. The demand for police officers and paramedics is off the chart. And with one city adjacent to us reporting a shortage of 40 officers and a larger adjacent city reporting as many as 100 officers of shortage. Not only does our city compete with the private sector, but we're also contending with neighboring jurisdictions for the employment of police officers and firefighters. Taking care of our own is what we do in Lee Summit, and public safety is the #1 priority for our citizens. So we must find ways to continue championing public safety, which includes supporting our police, our fire, and our public works departments. As one of the, thank you. As one of the fastest growing cities in the region, our population in the 2020 census is over 101,000 people, that is. With this growth and the projections for future growth, we have challenges ahead of us. We were able to make the first expansion in public safety in a decade and a half, but we were not able to meet the expansion requests from all the other departments. We have to continue to look for ways to increase our revenues and prioritize expenses to support all our departments and all of our employees. Every employee in every department are critical in the operations of our city in providing the finest quality of services, the finest quality of life for our citizens. The pandemic was extremely difficult to navigate, and it did take a toll on all of us. And it's felt like 10 years since March of 20, not 18 months. It's been a grind, and yet we dug in as a city and a community and have done the work. We've done more than get by. We've pushed through and not taken our eyes off the goals and objectives. Give you some examples. We completed the first long-term strategic plan, Ignite, for the City of Lee Summit in over a decade, bringing together citizens, community partners, council members, and city administration to develop a mission, vision, core values, critical success factors, and desired outcomes. The plan began in spring of 19 and was adopted in 2020, August of 2020. We initiated and adopted a long-term comprehensive plan. This is an extensively researched 20-year plan for zoning, activity centers, infrastructure, and more for the city. This was a 16-month process that included well over a half dozen joint meetings with the Planning Commission and City Council. We approved over $300 million in new construction in the last year, bringing the approved new construction in the last 3 years to nearly $1 billion. We have welcomed new businesses to our community and passed a variety of housing options, just as our strategic plan and comprehensive plan have outlined. This has increased our property tax revenues and broadened our tax revenue and base. Yeah, those are good things. After securing the land adjacent to City Hall for a permanent farmers market and performance venue, and potential conservatory, boutique hotel, office, retail, loft apartments, and the redesign of the plaza in front of City Hall to accommodate the outdoor performance venue, the city conducted an RFP for a public-private partnership to complete the project. In the middle of COVID, we had the most successful developers in the Midwest making application for this RFP. A selection committee of downtown stakeholders and city employees made the final selection of Lane 4 for the developer and Biederman Redevelopment Ventures for the management side. Lane 4's reputation in the metro is stellar, and Biederman manages major venues from coast to coast. So expect to see the most family-friendly environment with 7-day-a-week activity in our downtown when this project is fully operational, and it's underway. Yeah. So I want to take a moment to praise and thank the council for a really symbolic and important decision when we passed one of the few diversity and inclusion commissions in the state of Missouri this past year. Council conducted many meetings and discussions and created a scope for the D&I Commission to conduct an analysis or snapshot of the needs and process for creating and facilitating healthy discussions around race, diversity, and equity. Just last week, they adopted an inspirational mission statement. The mission statement could not be more reflective of who we are and who we will continue to be as a community, and it reads as follows. Lee Summit embraces the differences in our community. We value each individual's culture, background, and identity, and strive to promote mutual respect and understanding. We are committed to eliminating barriers, improving access to resources, and creating growth opportunities for all. This is an 18-month commission, and I hope you will follow its progress as it helps our community facilitate and sustain a culture of inclusion. Along the same lines, we, the city, partnered with United We and the Lee Summit Chamber to increase the number of women on local boards and commissions through an initiative called the Appointments Project. Women representation on boards and commissions has been a priority since I took office. Female board members and commissioners were at 36% 3 years ago, and now we're at 40%. And that's progress, but it's been a challenge without an initiative to help identify talented women that would like to serve Lee Summit. We have an abundance of wonderful citizens with so much to offer our community with their abilities and passion. Often, our citizens are working in communities outside our borders and end up giving much of their volunteer time and abilities to the communities in which they work. We need their support here at home, where they live, where their families are growing up and attending our schools, and where they spend their leisure time in our parks, cultural events, and more. We closed out one of the most difficult fiscal years imaginable on a high note. We have a city council fully engaged and determined to make a difference for our community. We have city administration and numerous departments full of talented, committed, and hardworking employees. We have citizens engaging and voicing their priorities to the council and city. And we have so many philanthropic organizations and businesses generously making our community better. This is our culture, and it's a major factor in why we are a vibrant and proud community. So I wouldn't be standing in front of you today if I weren't proud of this city. It's my duty, it's the council's duty to help facilitate the culture we hold dear. It's my responsibility to prioritize that which our citizens value most by working with city council, city administration, community partners, and citizens of our community. It's my obligation to pursue the success factors that we set forth together in the strategic plan: a diversified economic development, infrastructure, strong neighborhoods, cultural and recreational amenities, community health and well-being, and collaborative relations with our education partners. The projections I talked about a moment ago, where I said that we are at 101,000, they're projecting that we're going to be at 138,000 by the year 2040. So we have a lot to do to sustain our quality of life with that kind of growth. Having just adopted the strategic plan, we have our mission and marching orders to enrich lives through collaboration, creativity, and commitment. Those that participated in the strategic planning were devoted citizens with pride in our city. They didn't portray Lee Summit as anything less than wonderful, but they did want to make it better by building upon the greatness and preparing us to be resilient in a world that is ever-changing and ever-competing. Were it not for our past leaders pushing for better, we would not be in the phenomenal position we are today with our quality of life, city finances, educational institutions, and economic development. All these points of pride require visionary community leaders, top-tier administrators and staff, collaborative community partners, and an engaged citizenry. And to achieve all that we have set forth, it's imperative that we nurture and support the culture that sets our community apart. This culture is what the City Council will need to continue to role model going forward. This culture is what the citizens need to hold all community stakeholders and leaders accountable to. And I feel very positive about the level of commitment I have seen from council to constituents the last couple of years. This will be a critical part of our success going forward. We cannot just have a strategic plan, though, every 10 years. That being our only time to bring people together. The world's moving too fast. Technologies are changing the landscape and the horizon too rapidly. Our strategic plan is a living document and should not be redone 10 years from now. In fact, the Strategic Plan Committee should be meeting every 2 years to assess the progress and discuss the viability of the plan. This is the way we will ensure healthy discussions, continued community engagement, and proper direction. To fulfill this vision, we must embrace the differences in our community. It takes a concerted effort to reach out and welcome new talent to organizations. We need new ideas and diverse opinions to keep us discussing, debating, and not rubber stamping. We have talent in every corner of this community. We have difference makers in every industry in the metro and state. We have visionaries, worker bees, and everyone in between. Difference makers that live in Lee Summit should be making a difference in Lee Summit. We need their passion and their abilities in the room to create the best Lee Summit we can be. If you are one of those passionate people, we need you to come forward. If you know one of these rock stars, we need you to ask them to get involved. We need to build our leaders from the ground up with our community organizations, but we also need to be sure our star players are in the game and on our team. We will continue building award-winning parks and activity centers like our downtown. We need to continue to support quality housing developments of diverse price ranges because a person that works in Lee Summit deserves to live in Lee Summit. A person should not have to. Over the last decade, we have numerous success stories of homegrown companies expanding and remaining in Lee Summit because of their love and loyalty for our community. Our city council has approved nearly $1 billion in new construction over the last 3 years. But little of that has come in the form of new businesses with well-paying jobs. When it comes to economic development, we need to get in the game of job creation. We can choose our targeted industries, whether it's technology, aerospace, e-commerce, distribution, manufacturing, it could even be more healthcare. But we are in a position to take this destiny into our own hands. We need to bring jobs and successful businesses to Lee Summit to build a resilient economy. Numerous things must change for Lee Summit to be successful in attracting the type of businesses that will thrive over the next 20 to 40 years. Now, I want to say this. First, we have the workforce that has largely been untapped by these industries. The Lee Summit School District has recently more than quadrupled its resources that they put towards workforce development. And they're working hand in hand with the city and the Economic Development Council to better prepare our students for careers right out of high school or for trade schools if college is not the best option for them. It would be nice to keep our homegrown talent right here in our community. Yet we still have over 38,000 people, residents, leaving our city limits each day to work in other communities. One reason our workforce has been untapped is because there are still barriers to entry for our new businesses, and there's a lack of a strategic plan to recruit these companies. With Property Reserve Inc.'s 4,100 acres that are coming online, as well as we have numerous other large tracts, one barrier to entry we need to solve is the gap in infrastructure that we have in parts of our city, whether it's roads, water, or most notably sewer. When dealing with a developer wanting to build hundreds of thousands of square feet in industrial buildings and bring hundreds of well-paying jobs to our community, or if we're dealing with a developer that's wanting to build hundreds of high-quality homes, we can require them to connect to our sewer lines. But the main sewer lines have to be there to connect to. We need to start solving for this issue right away by creating a plan, an infrastructure plan that doesn't place the entire burden of bridging a gap in our city's infrastructure on one developer. There are numerous approaches we can take, but we need to begin immediately on this strategy and a process for our needs. Solving for this will mean opening doors to any business industry we seek, and will make us a major economic engine in the metro. Putting this plan together to welcome businesses with well-paying jobs by easing entry into our city will require the city council, and our community partners to work collaboratively to not only identify targeted industries, but to attract, recruit, and land these businesses. This is a major priority going forward and aligns perfectly with our strategic plan and comprehensive plans. Lee Summit continues to grow in a remarkable way as it has the last few decades. This is due to our attractive amenities and amazing culture, but we also must keep in mind the numerous attributes that citizens often reference that make them proud of their city, state, country. To make our citizens proud, we will continue to provide a safe community in which to live with a higher quality standard of living. We will work diligently to maintain our citizens' trust in local government with responsible spending of taxpayer dollars by community leaders that will work for the betterment of the city. We will continue to foster a team environment with our administration, city council, community partners, and citizens all working together. Together, we will decide how to grow by continuing to work on our strategic plan, diversifying our economy with well-paying jobs, and exhibiting the work ethic and spirit of community that got us here. We will eliminate barriers, improve access to resources, and create growth opportunities for all. We control our destiny, and I'm extremely proud to be a part of the Lee Summit community at this dynamic and exciting time. So thank you all for being here.